Hi, everybody. Mrs. Mack here with you for Latin Music Week. Now, one of the countries in Latin America is called Cuba. And I have this great book about a ton of things about the Cuban culture. Music is a huge part of it. In fact, almost every page in this book mentions something about music. But there is a section just about music. And I'm going to skip to that. Here we can learn about Cuban music traditions and all the kinds they have. So, in the history of Cuba, their rainforests and along the beaches lie materials that Cubans have used to make musical instruments out of natural materials. The Taino made instruments out of wood and conch shells. You see an example of that on your cover letter. They filled gourds with dried beans, seeds, and pebbles to make maracas. Here is an example of that. This is actually a gourd that has been painted and a handle on it, and it's been filled with those things. And they scratched notches into gourds to make weirros that you play by running sticks along them. So here's a weirro. You can see it kind of does look like a gourd. It's a long shape. They scratch the notches in it, and now, cool. West Africans, now that's not Cuban and it's not Latin either. West Africans brought to Cuba lots of types of drums. They make the sound higher and lower by hitting different parts of the drum's surface. Bata drums are called talking drums because the changes in pitch are similar to the way people's voices change when they speak. Made in Cuba. Over time, Cubans began to invent their own instruments, and many of the instruments were made by farmers called Oriente, where immigrants with different music traditions settled. So people from other places settled here in this region in Cuba, and they came with all kinds of different ideas of music. The trace is a small guitar with three pairs of strings. That's on your cover letter, too. Bongo drums are two drums connected by a wooden bar. Musicians hold the drums in their laps, and guayos are similar to güiros, but they're made of metal. The marimbula is a hollow wooden box with metal strips that are plucked with the fingers. Claves are two wooden sticks that are tapped together to create the main rhythm of Cuban music. Here are some pictures of Cuban musicians. Now, there are a lot of kinds of Cuban music. One is called son. We have trova, bolero, rumba, country dance, mambo, cha cha cha, salsa, timba, and then, of course, modern music now. But if we were to choose one that's very important to Cuba, let's see, why don't we choose the salsa? Because you have a square on your choice board to learn the salsa. So let's learn about it. Salsa, which means sauce, combines the sounds of Cuban, African, American, and Caribbean music. This style of music developed in the late 1960s and early 70s. It is played by large bands that include piano, bass, and a horn section. The strong beat of the music comes from drums, claves, and güiros. As the music plays, Salsa dancers twist their lower bodies and move their feet and arms in quick, complicated ways, all the while keeping their upper bodies straight. And I challenge you to try to learn that. Here are some pictures of those dances and bands. Maybe you have heard of a couple of these other kinds, like the cha 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 or the mambo or the rumba. But no matter what, one thing stays the same: rhythm is a really big deal, and color and movement is also a very big deal. Have fun learning about Latin music this week.